to tell you to worship. Now, politicians end up getting caught in that same track, that they will put on the persona of wanting to work for something better, for the people. And I'm just a menial servant that is here to work for the people. But it doesn't usually end that way. A lot of times, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the difference being that that little difference between power and absolute is what the people put in the hands of the person. So when you hand the reins of absolute power over to a human who has human frailties, who has human needs and wants, because none of us are perfect. There are people in leadership positions who have issues with their marriages, who have issues being a good parent, who have issues with alcohol and tobacco and pornography and pedophilia, all of it. And the only thing that holds back the tide is us calling them out and holding them accountable and say, listen, we're going to have you step back and get some help with yourself, because right now you're not in a position to help us if you can't even get this right. And it's not you being a good person or a bad person. It's you not being in a position to do the job. And unfortunately, the reality is sometimes we get ministers doing the job because there's nobody else who's wanting to do it. Not because they're good at it, not because they truly want to be a servant under that leadership, but sometimes because nobody else steps up, everybody else steps back, and the person who didn't step back is the person who's left. So sometimes we end up with what we end up with. But you know what? You don't have to stay that way. That's true about your health. You don't have to stay in the position that you're in. You can make a change on your terms, whether it's something that the politicians agree with, whether it's something that your doctor agrees with. In the end, this is your health. And my job is not to make you what I picture you to be. My job is to give you the tools necessary to do the work. And I think that's the problem. A lot of times we're all given tools, but we don't use them. We simply decide to do the easy thing. And then we get upset when the easy thing comes back on us. When we can get away with smoking for years, and then one day the doctor says you have lung cancer. When we can get away with drinking forever, and then one day the doctor says you have liver failure. When we eat ourselves into oblivion and get so overweight and obese and morbidly obese, and the doctor says you have diabetes or hypertension or cancer, because obesity goes with all that stuff. We're in a world right now where we use food as a drug. And then the food industry knows that, and they just pump it up. They pump up the volume. Just like the people who make marijuana have increased the potency so that we become more addictive. Turn up the volume so that before it would take you 10 hits, now it takes you 2. And I can't speak to it personally. I've never tried it. But I've been on the receiving end of the people whose affected lives. And I've been on the receiving end of people whose lives have been affected by the addictive nature of almost everything. Whether it's food, whether it's sex, whether it's power. Our bodies sometimes don't know when to turn off. That's what colds a lot of times are about. Our bodies ramp up all this stuff, coughing and mucus and everything, to kill the invader. And once the invader's dead, we're still coughing and making mucus because we turned it on and we couldn't turn it off. And so, unfortunately, we've gotten so used to just, I look around every day. I'm a people person. I watch people. I'm not so much a people person in terms of, ironically enough, talking. You think my family, I'm sure, is laughing right now, but I'm actually very much an introvert. I don't tend to go and hang out. I'm very one-on-one, but hanging out is just not what I do. But I like when I go out to look at the people who I pass. And I like to look and see what their facial expressions are. And I make judgments because I judge. I'm sorry, I do judge. Now, I don't do anything with my judgment. I'm like, that person's been on their phones for too long. And that person's got a problem with their core strength. And that person, they look like they have some Bermuda rot. And that person, so I can't turn it off. It's just what I do. It's who I am. This is not my job. This is who I've become. But I see people who live in their illness, and they've learned to be comfortable with the illness that they live with. Remember when you had the don't feel ashamed about your weight, and now with the advent of the GLP-1s, we have all these people who used to look on TV and they used to brag about how I'm very happy being overweight, so tough. And now what are they? They're the thinnest people out. They've gone the opposite way because they found a way to stop the food noise. And food noise for a lot of us started in our childhood. You realize a lot of trauma that we had as a child was actually soothed by food. And we learned how to use food to cover up all our insecurities and our problems and all that other stuff. So, yes, we have to admit to ourselves about the problems that exist, and we have to be very honest with ourselves about what is going to be needed to fix the problems. And it's not going to be money. It's not going to be new tax incentives. It's not going to be this government or that government. It's going to be the people wanting better for themselves, of themselves, and then asking just to get some help to do it, not for somebody to do it for them. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Good taste, good taste, good taste, taste, taste. Taste delicious, simply local, super satisfaction. Come and dine where food is prime and captures your attention. Local flavor, more to savor, what a big selection. Taste delicious, simply local, super satisfaction. Taste delicious, simply local, super satisfaction. Mr. Chicken, Mr. Chicken, Mr. Chicken, yeah.
It is 9:01. It's a beautiful Saturday, March the 14th, 2026. I encourage you guys to get outside. Currently, it's saying it's 68 degrees. No, it wasn't raining when I came in, so I'm assuming it's not raining now. We've just been talking about the stuff we always seem like we're talking about. We're just talking about the changes of the healthcare industry here in Bermuda. There was a time that, I woke up desiring to go in because I felt that, the service that me as a doctor provided was something that would better not just the individual, but the system. And now, unfortunately, the system is now corporate. The system is political. And so the things that we do on a small level, There's going to come a time, guys, and this is just the reality of it, that individual doctor thing is going to be a thing of the past. Because the way that the system runs, the way that the system costs, I know you worry about the cost of your healthcare insurance, you worry about the cost of the doctor's visit, but you never really think about how much it costs to actually run a doctor's office. And that has become such a large bill that's why in the States you found the local single doctor model just fade out into groups and mega groups and things like that, because it became too financially costly to run a practice. Between malpractice insurance, this year we have our licensing fees coming up. There are so many little things that nickel and dime you that you have to pass that cost on to the patient. And after a while, the only way that you can mitigate cost is to amalgamate. And so you form groups. And even in a lot of the socialized countries, you find that they are in groups to help save money. Because believe it or not, those places aren't free healthcare. They're just taxpayer healthcare. So it's everybody pays into the pot. That helps mitigate when all those people are not able to pay the cost of the health bills. And so too is happening in Bermuda. So now we already have a government-owned hospital, and we're going to, right now we have a mega owned practices by All Shore. Your weather today, All Shore. Your news, All Shore. This special function at your place, All Shore. Don't you feel sure about being all? I need to get a job at All Shore. Then maybe I can pay off some of my debts too. Because in the end, like I said, we have to just find a new way in this new way. And it starts with you making the decision, I'm going to take my health out of their hands. And finding a better way. And there are some other, there's actually still a few other ways. And I usually don't go on with all the individual ways of how you can carve out some of these systems. But there are some other ways that people and companies have found ways of saving money through doing different health ventures. Right now, it's still not illegal to not have health insurance if you are not working. And some people choose that. They choose to take the risk. They choose to invest their money into either paying for their health at the time. And that's a choice. And that's not a choice that should be taken away. As long as we understand risk, then yes, that's a choice. And we have cushions in place for people who make choices like that. There are some people who, due to their addiction or due to their mental illness, will never be able to make proper health choices. And they will always be wards of the state. And I say it like that to say that when they need health care at those extremes, the state will be there to provide them health care. Because we have that built in. We've had that built in forever. So when you walk into that emergency room, you can guarantee, and it's not even that emergency rooms are the places to go to take care of people like that. It's just that the government, because the people has asked the government to take care of people in those situations, the government has assigned funds for those people to specific places. Dr. Brown tried to twist that knob a little bit so that you could have those people taken care of at any place, but he got so much pushback. And the health, to do that, you need a whole system online. And unfortunately, there were a lot of people who worked behind the scenes to push back against him, because let's be realistic also. The system that is now in place makes some people a lot of money. And those people are not going to easily give up their funds. And believe it or not, those guys aren't necessarily doctors, because most of the time the reality is a doctor, for most cases, has to actually do something to get paid. Now, you might be upset with how much he gets paid when he does something, but he has to do it. Whereas when you're an administrator of some kind, you don't always have, you just have to look like you're doing something. You don't actually have to do something. And that's the big difference a lot of times. That's why, for years, I've been delving into what do I do when I give this up, when I don't do this anymore. And I keep trying to figure out, because, I got 3 girls and a boy. I got to think in my mind, I got to pay for weddings coming up and, retirement and things like that. So, at some point, and I'm just waiting for the Lord to put that burning bush in front of me so he can point me direction of where he wants me to go. I have to choose another direction. And it's not that I want to give this up, but this is not going to cut it as a single doctor. So they're almost forcing you into groups now to be able to survive. And people, Bermudians actually don't like it. I understand that. Bermudians hate not having their doctor. But that's a model that is going away. You can't have your doctor in this system because, for one thing, most doctors work for corporations. And most doctors have decided that, I can't live a life of nothing but being in an office. And you saw that shift in paradigm as you saw women come into the medical world more than men, because whereas men would sacrifice literally their families for the good of healthcare, for the good of being a surgeon or whatever the case may be, hence why they had horrible work-life balance, women were not so willing to do that. Women were like, I'll be willing to not make as much money to be able to have a life outside of the doctor's office or a life outside of the surgery suite. I actually, one of my daughters wanted to go into surgery, become a surgeon. And I pushed very hard back against that because I've seen the effects that being a doctor has on a lot of doctors. It takes, I remember just going through residency, the amount of stress that a person has to endure going through, you go in one day and you come out 2 days later. You're expected to see 20 patients and all of them ill, and the responsibility of their health is placed upon your back. And then you come home to children and a husband or a wife who wants you to be part of their life, and you haven't been able to disengage from taking care of other people. It's a commitment that goes beyond, and that's why you have to be sure it can't be the glitz and glamour that they make it out to be sometimes on TV. And I think that's a lot of times when young people go into it, they think of it like that, and it is not like that. There is a sacrifice that goes beyond just time. It's people. And the people in your life have to be willing to work within that sacrifice a lot of times. And sometimes they can, and sometimes they can't. Sometimes they're told it's one thing and it shows itself to be another. I wouldn't have been I don't think I'd been a good physician if I hadn't been a husband and a father. Well, I wouldn't have been as good a physician I am, because with those responsibilities, you're able to somehow reconnect with the world in a different sphere. We expect a lot from physicians, and sometimes we expect more from them than we should, because we ourselves are either placing too much of the authority of our health in their hands, and we have to learn how not to do that. But you know what? You can't switch it from the hands of your quote unquote your doctor to ChatGPT, because it was bad enough when Dr. Google was sitting in the room with me, and now I have ChatGPT and all these other computer models. And even when I hear the premier talking about how healthcare is going to be pretty much fixed by the advent of technology, they miss the human nature of healthcare. They truly don't get it sometimes. It makes me a little concerned when I hear some of these people who ramble on about how, the right electronic medical record or blockchain is going to fix the woes of healthcare. Because then the association is the woes of healthcare is simply information gathering. And it's not. The woes of healthcare is actually people. And you need to work with people, for people, to improve people's lives. And I think that's where the biggest, because when we have a lawyer who runs the Ministry of Health, they run it like a lawyer. When you have a businessman who works in the Ministry of Health, then they run it like a business. But healthcare covers multiple areas. But as a physician, the way you're trained is the room is filled with the patient first, and then all the other characters around it. And you have to be able to understand. Listen, here's the reality. Take care of yourself. Start eating right. Don't eat so much. Whatever you eat, cut it in half. Get outside and exercise. Get outside, and I didn't say go to the gym. Get outside, push the lawnmower, go for a walk, go for a swim. For God's sakes, people, we live in Bermuda. I don't understand how Bermudians don't swim anymore. It makes no sense to me. But you don't have to say you don't have enough money for a gym in this island, because we don't need a gym. What we need is the desire to do what's necessary to be healthy. And yes, food is expensive. Yes, doctor's visits are expensive. Yes, gas is expensive. Yes, electricity is expensive. Yes, buying a car is expensive. Everything is expensive here. So you can't expect to get something cheaper without a cost of cheap. Not in this island. It's not going to happen. The nature of living in Bermuda, unless you're willing to move off the island, is going to be things are going to cost more. That's just the way it is. And health care is going to be more expensive. But health care, your access into health care doesn't have to be frequent. It just has to be targeted. The idea of having to go to the doctor once a year to look under the hood should not be a prideful thing when you say, I haven't seen a doctor in 10 years or whatever. That's like saying, I haven't changed the oil in my car for 10 years. There's only so much you can do, and then you need some information that only we can give you. And yes, I know people use other healthcare industries. I know the naturopathic, I know the chiropractic, I know the allopathic, I know the holistic. I know all of those different paths people make a choice to go down to. And God bless them all for making these choices. But let's also understand that there are certain things that you're going to need when you start to break down. You want to know what I think you should invest in the most in your life? And it starts really early, your mental health. The one thing that is actually under-invested in is the thing that you need to invest more in. Because mental health is something that is basically thought of as a second-class citizen in the healthcare industry. Oh, yeah, we've got to put some mental health in there. Now, the reality is that mental health was part of a family dynamic, was part of a community dynamic. The mental health of the individual was supported by the healthiness of their family that they lived in. So if you had a healthy family, the chances of you having good mental health was good. When you went to a healthy church, then you had the improved ability to be healthy yourself. When your church was in a healthy community, then you had the health, the benefits of that. And all of that has now been taken away. We now have no healthy families, or the definition of healthy family has been skewed. People don't go to church anymore, and some of the churches don't focus on families. They focus on numbers in their pews. They focus on multicolored flags. They focus on having sermons about the black people versus the white people versus your Savior, Jesus Christ. So I understand when people come in frustrated with churches, but that's just one part of the larger part, because the reality is the person up on the having that sermon has his own set of problems or her own set of problems. That's why mental health is a community mission. It's not an individual mission. We were not built to live alone. We were not built to live in isolation. Why do you think during COVID, when the ways of the governments were to keep people isolated, that mental health went into the toilet? Because we are not made to be on our own. You don't want to get married? Fine, your mental health will suffer. You don't want to have children? Fine, your mental health will suffer. You want to start talking about all the mess that I see walking through my doors as an adult that came from the mess that was done to them as a child? There's a lot of sickness in this world. And don't think Bermuda is isolated from that sickness. And the cure for that sickness is not a new drug. It's people. That's why I think people need to make sure that they invest in a good church. Because investing in a good church is not about a good pastor. It's not even about a good sermon. I can hear 1 million good sermons on YouTube nowadays, and a lot of them are better than the stuff I've heard in person. But it doesn't stop you from being invested in community. We need people. We need people that will put you in your place when you do wrong. We need people that will reach out and say, listen, I haven't seen you in church for a couple of days. What's going on? Or I saw you on the street and stopped and say, hey, how you doing, my friend? Come on, I'll get in the car for a minute. That's what the churches are about. They're about giving you the tools and the resources necessary to live a healthy life and to call you out when you're not there, or support you in getting there when you need to get there. Because a doctor by themselves are not going to do it. A politician by themselves are not going to do it. Your parents are not going to do it by themselves. If you're lucky to have parents. Yes, you have a mother and a father, but do you have parents? Do you have people who are actually because I know a lot of kids, unfortunately, you want to hear some tragedies? Talk to some of the social workers and the psychologists that have to go into these schools and deal with all the mess that we as adults have put into our children. Talk to them. We are woke. You want to invest in some future Bermuda? Invest in those children, because those children are going to be the future problems of our country if we don't fix their problems as a child. And we as adults, all we're worried about is how we're going to be able to afford our cruise and travel here and have money to do this and party, all that stuff. And then we worry about nothing else but our own enjoyment until we reach in our 30s and 40s. And then we think, well, maybe I should pop out a child here or there. That is so twisted. It is, the devil knows how to get to us in the right way. We're so hung up on how to have stuff that we've lost how to live life to the fullest. And we literally stuff ourselves. We stuff our face. We stuff our days full of work. And then we stuff our nights full of partying. And then we stuff our weekends full of getting high on whatever a case may be. And then we stuff our literal bodies with somebody else just to make us feel temporarily like we have somebody in our lives. Get rid of the stuff. Have something real. Understanding that nobody is going to fulfill you totally, because that's not their job. That's the job of a creator, not a person. But the creator has at least given you people that, if done right, will actually make you a better person. You have to be able to understand that we got to start taking ownership of where we are as a people. Take ownership of your own stuff first. Believe me. And I don't speak, once again, I don't speak as a person who perfects to be perfect. Believe me, I don't. I have too much mess in my own life that I have to straighten up. But the one thing I haven't crossed yet is trying to call wrong right. I am very well aware of mess, and I am very well aware of when mess has to be cleaned up. Now, whether I have that physical ability or the mental ability or the tools necessary, that's a whole other topic. But a lot of us, what we do is we live in this imaginary world of everything is okay. I have a good job that the boss loves me. I have friends online. I have money so I can travel here and there. I have a wonderful life. And then you look and there's a lot of emptiness in there. We're not training our children to fulfill themselves with people. We're training them to fulfill themselves with stuff. And it is interesting that the wealthier we become as individuals and as a nation, the further away we go from what is basically part of our DNA. So as we think we're so smart, we're too smart for Jesus. We're too smart to have children. We might have one because, our 401k plan, our retirement plans don't involve having to deal with a lot of children. Just not going to happen. I see so many people of yesteryear generation whose their retirement plan was I invested in my children and my children have invested in me. So that if done right, a lot of them don't worry about ending up in a nursing home. Don't worry about ending up on the streets because they have family. Be part of a family before you're part of a political group. Be part of a family before you're part of any other organization who purports to have your best interest in heart, but yet when the chips come down to it, they don't. Because, the reality is that people are going to show themselves and their weaknesses when life gets stressful. People will always We are back. It's 9:30. We got about a half hour left. In case you want to call, you can give us a call, 297-1027, or if you happen to be overseas, you can always give us a call at 1-888-257-9086, and we will try to answer some of your phone calls in regards to your health challenges. We all have health challenges. Even when we're in quote-unquote perfect health, we still have health challenges because the body has a limited amount of time, and we can keep it as tuned as we can, but, it eventually will give out on us. And but while we have it, we need to take care of it. You got to change the oil. You got to change the oil. At some point, you can't just let that sludge build up. You got to flush the radiator every once in a while. And I'm talking car, I guess, for those who don't talk car. But in general, you have to at least keep an eye on what's going on underneath the hood. It's amazing how much diabetes I pick up on nowadays. There's so many people, and you can call it pre-diabetes if you want, whatever the case may be. We have an issue with, and I would like to say the sugar in our bodies, but technically type 2 diabetes isn't a sugar problem. It's an insulin resistance problem. And that's why we talk about obesity and everything like that, because it all kind of comes together. The more obese you are, the chances of insulin resistance goes up. With the insulin resistance, even when you're eating a regular amount of sugar, it will stay in your blood longer. Sugar in your blood longer can cause damage to the small blood vessels and to the nerves, hence why you end up having the places that have small blood vessels have problems. So your eyes, your heart, your hands, your feet, your penis, all of those things can be affected by having uncontrolled diabetes. And the biggest fix for that is having a better muscle mass in your body, having better. And I didn't say your weight, because some people hate the idea of saying how much they weigh. So a lot of times is that you should not have, 40% body fat. You shouldn't have 30% body fat, actually, technically. As a woman, you're allowed 20-some% as being healthy. But once you start crawling up there and having all that body fat, that fat acts as a resistance marker. And with it comes, not just insulin resistance, it becomes, inflammation promoting, all of that stuff. So that is one of the reasons why. And if you think about it, why did we not have as much of that when we were in the old days, quote unquote? Well, one of the things that grandma and grandpa did was they were physically active. And I don't mean they went to the gym. I remember my grandmother taking a heavy basket of laundry with clothes that were not all fully, wringed out or wrung out to the line, had to hang it out, watch, then when it dried, you had to bring it back in and fold it. She had to cook. She had to do a lot of physical labor. And that physical labor every day was part of what kept her body going, and her body did not betray that, But nowadays we have I always say that the devil knows how to kill us with convenience. If you want to make a people sick mentally or physically, give them convenience. Give them the ability to not have to do anything to get something. Because that is not what we were built for. We were, even in the Bible, it says a man who does not work should not eat. So we're physically made to toil. And when we don't use this body that has been given to toil, then if you don't use it, you lose it. So muscle mass keeps you healthy. Having a good body built with muscle. And I don't mean you're not physically a big muscle guy. You're not Arnold Schwarzenegger. But even when we talk about the little old frail ladies and stuff like that, one of the things I talk about is core strength a lot of times with my patients. What is your core strength? What is the body's inner muscle coordination doing for you? Because without that, that's the person who tripped and fell off the sidewalk and broke their hip. These are the things that we have clearly seen historically. That's not a new phenomenon. As much as we come up with all these new drugs that, yes, they do help us, a lot of them take place of what we should have been doing for ourselves. A lot of it takes the place of us living healthy lives. And that's why a lot of times when you hear about the weight loss craze and everything like that, a lot of our weight is our mental health, and we have horrible mental health. So rather than dealing with the mental health, we deal with the way around it, which is drugs, legal or otherwise. Good morning, you're on Medical Radio.
Good morning, Dr. D.
Good morning, sir.
You know, I met you not long ago, but you don't know. But anyway,
Okay.
you're a great guy.
Did you introduce yourself as to who you were?
Yeah, I tell you who I am, but that didn't help you.
Okay. Okay. I'll take your word for it.
I'm listening to you, and you know you're an MD. I'm an MD, but not
In the medical realm.
medical side. No, I'm in the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with everything you say because you're the guy, you know.
Okay.
But there's two sides. There's two sides
To
a coin.
everything. Yep, very much.
And, you know, I am very disappointed. Well, I can't even speak about Big Pharma. But the food police, which is the FDA,
Mm-hmm.
they're not doing the job.
Oh,
They're getting paid off. I mean, everything you said just now, as far as I know, is 100% right. But on the other side of the coin, the food that a lot of us are eating is crap.
mm-hmm.
Even when I go and buy a bottle of juice, I'm not gonna, you know, I don't have what I probably need to do and it's on me to do this,
Mm-hmm.
to go and make my own juice.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, sometimes I get juice, but I have to set it out maybe twice as much or more.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is components in there that are good, but it's just too much sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Too much sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the FDA needs to be fired. And I think that I'm very glad that the gentleman Kennedy
Kennedy. Yep.
is looking into some of this stuff because it's nonsense, man.
Mm-hmm. He's getting a lot of pushback though, because let's be real, these guys have had power for a very long time.
Well, of course, they're making a lot of money, and they're trying to mess up He's trying to mess up their game.
Mm-hmm. And
But,
they're not going to have that.
Just on the other side of what you're saying, everything you're saying, and we need to get out there and exercise more. We need to get our faces out of our phones. Everything that you're saying is 100%. But I just want to bring up the other side. I mean, the seed oils are killing us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we go out, give me some fried fish there. Like, what's the being fried in?
Mm-hmm.
Do you foresee down the road? See, I'm proving I'm a Bermudian and say down the road. A lot of people think I'm American. You know? That situation changing much because the only hope I see right now is what the gentleman Kennedy's doing, pointing out, you know, all this stuff that's going on with our food. I mean, it'll be nice for us to have everything fresh, you know, organic. But you know something? In the States, and I noticed this when I was young, like sometimes you might see, let's say, a shoe shop, and then right next to that shoe shop is another shoe shop that probably may have shoes that's maybe cheaper. The other one has got shoes that cost more. But like that, they're deliberately right next door to each other to compete, maybe. I don't know. But what I'm trying to get at is, even when it comes to food, you have one person that says, oh, my stuff is all organic and this and that. And then the person right next to them, they got that thing going, but, you know, they're using all the pesticides and all that.
Mm-hmm.
How can the guy next to him be organic? He can't be. Because you got maybe two separate pieces of land.
Mm-hmm.
But in the structure of it, there's one piece of land.
Right.
You know, the water, you know, the rain, the water flows, the chemicals from the side that is all the pesticides and all that flows over to the organic side.
Mm-hmm.
We're on a, as the old timers say, we're on a slippery slope.
Yep.
But what can be done in your mind? And I'll let you talk to you. What do you think can really, besides us going out and planting our own stuff?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I live up on a hill. When I was young, I used to play on this hill. My homestead is next door. When I built the house I'm in now, the hill was excavated. And you know what shocked me?
What's that?
The whole hill is limestone with about 6 inches of
Okay.
And I think because of how Bermuda became what it was,
Right. The volcano.
Volcano threw it up. So I think that maybe, I don't know, the soil that we have in some parts of the island is pretty much scarce. I mean, it would be good if we could start planting our own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the solution to that is that we need to do like they do in other places, then make places to actually put soil and grass. I don't know, Doctor. It's a big puzzle, and it's one that some of us don't have really the time to do.
Mm-hmm.
I like to go and buy fresh fruit and stuff and vegetables. But when I pick it up, you know what I see? What I see is, what is in this? What pesticides or what chemicals are in this thing?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like buying the genetically modified anything, but we don't have a choice. We're not even told.
Not anymore.
I bought some grapes the other day. Oh, those grapes they were delicious.
Mm-hmm.
I even thought about going back and getting some more. Guess what? They had no seeds.
Right.
Now, from what I know, anything that is done special to anything nowadays costs money. So that means that if they have one area of supermarket where you have genetically modified fruit, vegetables, and all that, and you had another side that's supposed to be just regular, no genetically modulated. Well,
modified, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, genetically modified anything, they would be cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that most people don't even know. So we're faced with the question: why are things so expensive?
Mm-hmm.
If we're having genetically modified fruits and vegetables, it's going to cost more than the regular.
Mm-hmm.
But we have no choice, and we're actually given no idea. I just want to find out what's in your mind. What do you have any thoughts on this? Have a good day, Doctor.
Take it easy, my friend.
All right, thank you.
Let's take this next call first. Good morning. You're on Medical Radio.
Hello, Dr. Dean.
Good morning.
Morning. Listen, one of the things I've observed lately, there's been a lot of information about how to eat healthy. And I think a percentage of our population is taking heed. But what I do see that is diminishing or certainly getting no better is the thing you was talking about. People lacking exercise.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, depending on your cultural background, and mostly my people, black people, because when I'm out here jogging or walking, I see a lot of groups, but I don't see a lot of my people actually making an effort, morning, and really doing a lot of exercise in comparison. But I do think my people are making a big effort when it comes to the way they're eating, thanks to people like you and others, Connie Fripp, talking about the importance of eating a certain way and even going beyond that. But that's always been my concern because, I remember a time, and we grew up side to side. I'm Mike Watson, right? And I remember a time when I used to be in St. George's out there running. And this is when athletics was finally reaching a height in Bermuda, this being new Carifta era coming to be. And us being the first lot of juniors doing Carifta. And before that, there wasn't really a big exercise crave in Bermuda, especially in the way of walking and running. And I remember being out there running and people calling out to me and thinking I was crazy because I was doing it every day all year round. There was one, why are they running every day? It's like they couldn't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And they did kind of get it a little bit when it was coming close to May 24th.
Mm-hmm.
When, they talk about Henry and some of these other guys running here that they knew were training, but nobody ever thought about exercising all year round.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 80s came along, and we started to talk more and more about it. and it became a big crowd for it. But somewhere along the way, it diminished. And then I noticed people like yourself, health professionals and doctors, started to talk a lot more about it. And that encouraged people to come out and do it. But I'm noticing lately it's been a little bit of a decline again. So I'm glad to hear you bring that topic up now and then to remind people that along with the good eating, they also need to get moving.
Mm-hmm. I
You know what
agree.
I mean? No matter what their choice of exercise may be. But heck, it could be just going for a walk in the park, but you got to get the body moving. You know what I mean? So I'm glad, and I quote mainly to emphasize that the more it's heard, the more it's emphasized, I think the more people will get back into it, you know?
I agree. So,
All right?
all right, my friend. Have a blessed
Okay,
one.
my
See?
brother.
Take it
Okay,
easy.
then.
Bye-bye. Good morning. You're on Medical Radio.
Yes, good morning,
Good morning.
Mr. Dolan.
Yes, sir.
Well, you have a lot of insight as an individual from Bermuda. Well, you get another group of interested individuals that come together as a group, as an organization, especially when it comes to the black community, because Mr. Watson, speaking of the white community, that's really not the issue. As far as we are politically emancipated, our foreparents were from slavery emancipated. We are politically emancipated, so us having to acknowledge that, and even from a broader impact on our children, that they realize they have some interest in this island, have some identity for themselves as the white community, as Mr. Watts speaks, because they are the ones that run all the industries, basically, and we are just the clients. We are just those people that just go along with what business as usual goes along with. But we as identifying ourselves. So I'm waiting for somebody to get you, really get at you and take away your job. And guess how many people will actually come and support you?
Okay.
They're just speaking, your insight is there that people don't really look at as the full. When you say you're politically emancipated, you got majority of blacks in Parliament. You say, Mr. the Premier that's going to leave now, his divorce. And I take that literally. I don't take that. It's like in charge. He can do whatever he wants until his time comes.
Correct.
And I know it's risky business when it comes to politics. But in the sense of having one government now, as you say, getting rid of party politics and now putting it in a perspective that white and blacks and whites get along, because race relations comes to there. This is the issue with white society in general, that we are fragmented as a society, black. And now coming together, understanding that we can come together as a group of national group of individuals coming together as one, looking out for our future, with children, our future. They don't have no future if the adults don't stand up for them. So what I'm trying to say here is now that we're politically emancipated, we should go about having some impact, broader impact on the society itself with the young generation. And we don't seem to get it. Regardless of health or any other issues, we have normal lives like anybody else. So the point I'm trying to make is somebody got to take the initiative. And I've always been that type of person. And they say, well, they don't like me because I speak with authority, and my lifestyle will say, oh, this guy, no. But it's not personal. I don't take things personal. I just take it as a meaningful something that inspires the young generation. And if we don't inspire the young generation, we're going to see the same results that from 1959 when we boycotted the segregated society at the time. So the point is, us coming together, which whites prefer us to stay apart. And so now that we're politically emancipated, why can't we come about and come together as a black community and do something about what is necessary? There's particular issues, address them. I'm only saying this because I'm not giving up. I'm been on the talk show and that cut me off a lot of times because they say, well, this guy this lifestyle doesn't, or I'm not a support, or I'm not somebody who can say be an example for the young people.
Okay. All
Well,
right.
guess what? I don't take that personal. Then they cut me off the talk show.
Right.
I do not take it personal.
Yeah.
I take it as something like a stepping stone for me to keep going. So
Right.
I just want to let you people know that until blacks come together in this country, and I know this is a black island because slavery proves this so. But the point I'm trying to say here, we as a black community got to come together, forget all the white, let's put our identity on this island so our children have something to look forward to. This is
Okay.
all I got to say for now.
All right.
No,
Let me.
have a good day.
Thank you. Take it easy. So it's 9:51. Okay. Let me try to see if I can answer the question from previous. I said earlier on that the way the devil kills us is with convenience. Somebody said the other day to me about Bermuda, and I thought it was very true about how the fact is, how in the world can you people talk about how you don't have food when you have free-range chickens running everywhere and anywhere? You have, access to food galore. And our mindset is that, no, I'm not eating that nasty stuff. A lot of times, historically, and I'll even tie into what this gentleman said, historically, black people, slaves, the whole business, were able to take something, whatever was given, and make it work. And we as a people, historically, have been able to take what we were given, no matter how good or bad it was, and make it work. Natural food is... I always say that if you can get food that is grown out the soil or killed, then you should be okay. Even if it's been contaminated with whatever pesticides, because no matter how bad that is, it's still going to be better than if you have to buy that same ingredient out of a bag, a box, or a can. Because just by nature of it having to be placed in those three mediums, there's going to be a change that has to occur to make it sustainable. By definition, yeah, if you could grow your own food, you would be ahead of the game. Everybody had at some point some kind of animal and grew their own vegetables or whatever. Those days are gone. We don't even have pigs on the island anymore. And whether you believe that pigs are good for you or bad or not, the nature is that we are not in control of our own food supply. And when you put that control, which is why I talk about your health, when you put the control in somebody else's hands, you are at the other person's mercy. So, yes, genetically modified allows people to have more for the cost of less. So I can now, because I'm giving these chickens in captivity all these hormones and antibiotics, the chickens are twice as big as they would be normally. So now I can get twice as much of my revenue out of one chicken at a cost. Yes, if I plant in a field that has all the different chemicals and stuff in it, my vegetables or my fruit will grow twice as big and I will reap twice as much harvest at a cost. We never did a good study historically about what these chemicals do to us long term. That's why a lot of times I don't have a problem with what Kennedy is doing with the FDA and reinventing the food pyramid. And I have a problem with my own medical communities pushing back on it because, pediatricians are great at saying take a vaccine, but they have yet to tell you why so many kids have asthma, so many kids have eczema, so many kids have ADHD, so many kids are on all these medications. All that we are doing is treating illness, but we are not defining where this illness came from. And yes, the chances are the illnesses are coming from what we are doing to ourselves or allowing to be done to us. We have gone down a slippery slope. Every time I go into the grocery store, now I've since I went carnivore last year, I pretty much gave up most of the fruit that I ate. I eat it once in a blue moon. But, my thought was even before that, I always said to myself, well, if I didn't have boats and ships to bring in fruit, how often would I get access to fruit? Whenever bananas were in season, whenever loquats were in season, they wouldn't be in season at the same time normally, the cherries. So I would have pause times of eating certain fruits. And fruits taste great because they have sugar in it. You can call it natural sugar or whatever, or different sugar, but they're sweet because they have sugar, and sugar tastes good. But I wouldn't be able to eat the amount, couldn't eat it every day, wouldn't be able to do it. So the limitations of us being able to eat actually kept us healthy. But now we have a limited supply of food. Whether it is actually filled with chemicals or not, it is still too much food for what we do. We have gotten gluttonous over excess. Access has provided us with excess. We have to understand that. You look at some of the countries who have very little. You don't find very much obese people there. Now, they have other issues. So clean water definitely gives you a pass. You know, soil that's not polluted with a lot of chemicals, like, you know, things that run off your roofs and paints and stuff like that, definitely a positive. But, you know, if you just, I always tell people the easiest way to cook food, or the easiest way to lose weight, is to simply cook your own food. If you have to get it out of a bag, a box, or a can, then put it back. That would limit so much food that you are being able to eat. Just definitely limit it. But convenience is our friend and our enemy. One of the things that I remember hearing about, which I never knew until I knew it, was meat glue. How they could use certain chemicals to combine different pieces of meat into one meat and give me the illusion that I'm getting this nice piece of meat, whether it was steak or fish cutlets or chicken cutlets or whatever, until I found out that it was just pieces of meat glued together. You know, genetically modified now, and the onset now of the the vaccine that we had, and the technology, they now use that technology in animals. So we are not going backwards unless you are planning on doing it yourself. The industries have definitely taken over. I don't trust my FDA. I don't trust most of my alphabet groups anymore, because unfortunately, yes, they have been corrupted. We know that. We choose to ignore that. But, you know, if you look and see who's on these boards, just like I said earlier, the people who sit on these boards work for this corporation. Do you realize the person that we brought in to be our chief medical officer, he left and went back to his country? No, he left and works for the Bermuda Health Council now, because Bermuda makes you fat off the lamb. I'm sorry, guys, but, you know, we cannot blame all these other things for what's happening to us. We have to take responsibility. So as I leave here today, I want you to understand, take responsibility. Do what you can to improve your life. I don't care whether you're worried about the soil or whatever. Find the best possible thing that you can do, and then do it to the best of your ability. Because you can't complain about what other people are doing to you if you are giving them access to you. And that I don't care whether that's your politician, whether that's your doctor, whether that's the salesman selling you a car, or whether that's the grocery person selling you an item of thing. Go to the farmer's market. And if you're worried that they're using contaminated soil, grow your own. There's no perfect place anymore, guys. There's no perfect place. And I don't know if there was ever a perfect place to begin with. But I can guarantee you this. When all this is over with, we're going to have one perfect place to go to. And the judgment will come to us all. So take it seriously. I'm telling you, take it seriously. Take your health seriously. Take your life seriously. And just do the best you can, because tomorrow's not promised for any of us. It doesn't matter what we're doing. I don't care if you're 20 or 220. It's coming for us. It's coming for us all. Just do the best that you can and let the other stuff take care of itself. Don't forget about Bermuda Idol tonight at 7:30. And don't go anywhere because the Need to Lead is coming up next. Thank you.
Bermuda Live on YouTube. Subscribe now.